The following program is brought to you in compatible color, pioneered and developed by RCA.
World leader in electronics, RCA. And RCA Victor, first in sight and sound. The makers of RCA Whirlpool Home Appliances. Present Producer Showcase.
October 15, 1956. Live from New York, Producer Showcase brings you another evening of outstanding entertainment. Tonight, another distinguished event for NBC. For the first time on television, Producer Showcase presents the unique talent of two-time Academy Award winner William Wyler, Hollywood's most honored producer-director, who gave you such great films as Mrs. Miniver, The Best Years of Our Lives, Roman Holiday, and whose newest motion picture release is Friendly Persuasion. Producer Showcase is proud to present to you William Wyler's production of The Letter by W. Somerset Maugham. Producer Showcase will bring you the first act of William Wyler's production of The Letter in just a moment.
RCA, pioneer, developer of compatible color television, presents a complete new line of big color TV.
10 new big color models, starting as low as $495.
First choice in big color, RCA Victor TV.
For the price once paid for black and white alone, you can now enjoy both color and black and white on the same set.
This picture, in living color, is real as life. Now switch channels. See your favorite black and white programs, too. It's compatible. It's dependable. It's trouble-free.
RCA Victor Big Color TV, as low as $495, now at your RCA Victor dealers. And remember, only RCA Victor TV owners can have famous RCA factory service.
Quiet, final rehearsal.
Hold it, Tom. Your shirt.
It's clean.
The color doesn't go with your suit.
Not too bad here.
But, Tom, thousands of people are watching this on RCA Victor compatible color television.
Compatible?
See it for yourself. It's like two sets in one. Color shows in living color, regular programs in clear black and white, as low as $495.
Well, great. Now, about my shirt.
It's not compatible.
Compatible shirt?
Mm-hmm. A new idea inspired by RCA Victor compatible color TV. For instance, Aero now has shirts, ties, handkerchiefs in compatible colors to go with almost any suit. Smart sports shirts, too, that blend with the newest sportswear.
Okay, I'm sold.
Buy both Aero compatible colors, compatible color TV by RCA Victor.
And now, Producer Showcase presents the first act of William Wyler's production of The Letter. This is Singapore, capital of Malaya, a wild and primitive part of the world between the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea, where rubber is king. Singapore, a teeming oriental city, meeting place of 100 peoples, where men of all colors and nationalities mingle together. Here, too, lives a colony of English men and women who work to extract nature's riches from the land. Our story starts on a small and lonely rubber plantation not far from Singapore on a calm and peaceful night before the last World War. Day and night, the white gold that is rubber drips from the trees.
Mr. Hammond. Do you know where the new district officer lives?
Yes, Missy.
Tell him to come here at once.
Yes, Missy.
Maybe we bring Boggy in, Missy, and put him in spare room.
No, don't touch it. On your way through the village, I want you to telephone my husband in Singapore. He's at the Joyce's house.
Yes. What I say?
Tell him to come here at once. Tell him there's been a terrible accident. What do you want? Go away, all of you.
Yes, what is it?
I hear a motor car coming up road.
Good, that must be Mr. Crosby at last. Mrs. Crosby? Mrs. Crosby, there's a car on the road. There must be your husband. Mr. Crosby, I thought you were never coming.
Where is she?
She's in her room. She's locked herself in. She wouldn't see me till you came.
Leslie.
My name is Joyce.
Leslie.
Are you the new ADO?
Yes, sir. My name's Withers.
How long have you been here?
Darling.
Oh, about an hour, sir.
Darling, it's me. Open the door. Darling. What's happened?
Didn't I tell you?
They said that Hammond was killed.
Is he there still?
I had your head boy remove the body to a shed.
Darling, what's happened?
He tried to rape me and I shot him. Oh, Robert, darling, I'm so glad you've come.
All right, darling,
I'm
all right.
frightened,
all right.
so terribly frightened.
No.
Oh.
There's nothing to be frightened about. Now, just hang on to me. All right, all right, all right. All right. There, there.
Oh, Mr. Withers, I hope you will understand. I couldn't see anyone until my husband came.
Of course I understand, Mrs. Crosby.
Howard, how good of you to come.
Naturally, I'd want to be here if I can help.
You will help us, won't you?
As your lawyer and your friend.
How is Dorothy?
She's well, Leslie, and anxious to see you.
Come along, darling.
Yeah, you
Come
better
on.
be resting.
Now, come and have a drink. It's all right. Now, sit down here.
I'm sorry to be so tiresome.
Nonsense. You're being very brave. Now, here you are. Drink this up. Drink it up.
Thank you.
Mrs. Crosby, I know this sounds rather brutal, but I'm afraid it's my duty to ask you some questions.
Mr. Withers, don't you think we can wait until my
It's
wife...
all right,
is...
Robert, really. I feel perfectly all right now. Really, I do.
Leslie, suppose you tell us exactly what happened. Everything that you can remember.
I'll try.
And take your time, Mrs. Crosby. Remember, we're all friends here.
Well, as you know, Robert was spending the night in Singapore. I never mind being alone. This evening I had dinner rather late, and then I started to work on my lace. I can't remember how long I'd been working, when suddenly I heard a footstep coming up the steps of the veranda, and someone said, "Hello, may I come in?" I was rather startled because I hadn't heard a car drive up.
Hammond left his car about 100 yards down the road. I noticed it as I drove up.
Well, I didn't recognize the voice, so I called out, "Who is it?" "Jeff Hammond," he said. Of course, I said, "Come in and have a drink."
Were you surprised to see him?
Yes. We hadn't seen him in ages, had we, Robert?
No, 3 months at least.
Well, I told him that Robert was away in Singapore on business. He said he was sorry, that he felt rather lonely this evening, so he just thought he'd call by and see how we were getting on. I asked him how he'd come, as I hadn't heard a car. And he said he had left it down the road because he thought we might be in bed, and in that case he didn't want to wake us up. Well, I poured him a drink. I put on my spectacles and went on with my work. We chatted a little. Then he said something rather silly.
What?
Oh, it's not worth mentioning.
Leslie, I think you'd better tell us exactly what he said.
He said, "I don't know how you can bear to wear those spectacles. You have such beautiful eyes."
Had he ever said anything like that to you before?
Oh, no, never. And I thought it very impertinent. So I told him I didn't care what he thought about me or my eyes, and he just laughed and said, "I'm going to tell you anyway. I think you're most attractive," he said. "You'll be attractive anywhere, but in this God-forsaken jungle, you're irresistible." Then I began to feel really very annoyed. He was talking to me as if I was some silly-headed little fool.
While Hammond was talking to you like this, did he just sit still?
Oh, no, he came over to where I was, and he tried to take hold of one of my hands. I told him not to be silly, to sit back where he was and talk sensibly. Otherwise, I should be obliged to send him home.
But Mrs. Crosby, I wonder you didn't throw him out there and then.
I didn't want to make a fuss. Some men think it's their duty to flirt with women when they get the chance. They think some women expect it of them.
When did you first suspect that Hammond was serious?
The next thing he said, he was staring at me. And he said, "Don't you know that I am awfully in love with you?"
Swine. Were you surprised?
Of course, I was amazed. Why, we'd known him for almost a year, and he hadn't paid me the slightest attention. I didn't even know that he knew what color my eyes were.
Please go on, Leslie.
Well, he poured himself another whiskey and soda. I began to wonder if he'd been drinking before, so I said, "I wouldn't have another if I were you." I was quite friendly, not at all frightened. It never occurred to me that I wouldn't be able to manage him. But he emptied his glass and said in a funny, abrupt way, "Do you think it's just because I'm drunk I'm saying all this to you?" So I said, "Well, I hope that it's the nicest explanation." Oh, it's too awful. I'm so embarrassed telling you all this. I feel so ashamed.
Howard, is it necessary to go and ask?
Leslie, it's for your own good that we know all the facts.
Very well. I'll try to tell you the rest. I got up from that chair there. I stood here, round about here beside the table. I held out my hand. "Good night," I said. But he didn't move. He just stood there looking at me, and his eyes were all funny. "I'm not going," he said. Then I began to lose my temper. "You poor fool, don't you know I've never loved anyone but Robert in my whole life? Now, if you don't go at once, I shall call the servant and have you thrown out." He just laughed at me. Then out of earshot, he said, I tried to get past him to the veranda, but he took my arm and swung me round. I tried to scream, but he flung his arms around me and began to kiss and kiss me. I struggled to get away, but he was like a madman. He kept talking and talking, saying that he loved me and that he wanted me.
Leslie, I'm sorry, but you will have to tell us the rest.
He held me so tight I could hardly move. I could hardly breathe. I thought I'd faint. I could feel his hot breath on my face, and I thought I'd get sick. Then he lifted me right off my feet and started to carry me to my room. Everything else happened in a moment. He stumbled and fell there on those steps. I jumped up and tried to get away, but he made a grab at me. I was by now beside myself with fear. Suddenly, I remembered Robert's revolver in the drawer, so I snatched it out. I didn't even know I'd fired. I heard a report. He staggered out. He called out something. I don't know what he said. But he stumbled to the veranda. I followed him. I didn't even know I was pulling the trigger. It was only then that I knew what I'd done. He was lying there in a heap. Oh, Robert, darling, what have I done?
You've done what any woman would have done in your place if she'd had the courage.
How did the revolver happen to be there?
I left it then, thank heavens I did. When I have to leave her alone, I always feel safer if she's got a gun handy.
Mrs. Crosby, may I say that I think you've behaved magnificently. I'm terribly sorry that we had to put you to the ordeal of telling us all this. It's quite obvious the man only got what he deserved.
No, I would give anything in the whole world to give him back his life. I think I have killed him.
Could I see the body for a moment?
Yes, I'll take you to it.
You don't want me to come?
No, of course not. You stay here with Bob. We shan't be a minute.
Oh, darling, I'm so tired, so desperately tired.
Of course you are, darling. I wish there was something I could do to help you.
You can love me.
Love you? I've always loved you, you know that.
Yes, but now?
If I could love you any more, I would now.
Oh, Robert.
Darling.
I'm not being a very good hostess, am I? You must be starving up at this hour of the night. I shall get you something to eat.
No, please don't bother, Mrs. Crosby.
It's no bother, really.
I'm not at all hungry.
Robert?
Oh, nothing.
Matter of fact, I'm afraid it's about time we were leaving for Singapore.
Now?
It'll be morning before we get there. We'll ring up the Attorney General and find out when he can see us.
Shall I be arrested?
I'm afraid you're by way of being under arrest now.
It's purely a matter of form, Mrs. Crosby.
Shall I be imprisoned?
That's for the Attorney General to decide. I hope when you've told him your story, we shall be able to get him to accept bail. It depends what the charge is.
What do you mean by that?
I think it's not unlikely he'll say that only one charge is possible. In that case, I'm afraid an application for bail would be useless.
What charge?
Murder.
Well, I shall throw a few things in a bag. I shan't be a moment.
That woman's a marvel. Her self-control's absolutely amazing. You could see that she was only just holding on to herself. I say, what a swine that man was.
Did you know Hammond?
A little. I haven't been here very long, you know.
Was he a heavy drinker?
I don't know that he was. He drank, of course, but I've never actually seen him drunk.
You like him?
Yes, rather. He was breezy, gay, the sort of chap you couldn't help liking.
Could you have imagined him doing this kind of a thing?
Well, how can you tell what a man will do when he's drunk?
That's true.
Well, I haven't been very long, have I?
I shall hold you up as an example to Dorothy.
I'm sure she doesn't take half as long as you do. I can always drink. I can always dress in half the time. But Robert does.
Well, let's get going, shall we?
Have you got room for me, or shall I follow my car?
Plenty of room. Come on.
Leslie,
Yes.
there's just one question I'd like to ask you.
Yes, what is it?
While I was looking at Hammond's body just now, it seemed to me that some of the shots must have been fired when he was lying on the ground. And I got the impression that you must have stood over him and fired and fired.
I was trying to forget for a moment.
Why did you do that?
I didn't know I did.
It's a question you must expect to be asked.
I suppose it must seem very cold-blooded. But I was so terrified. I didn't know what I was doing.
Of course, Mike. Put it out of your mind.
Producer Showcase will return with Act Two of William Wyler's production of The Letter after this message from the makers of RCA Whirlpool Home Appliances.
RCA Whirlpool, RCA Whirlpool.
Oh, pity this poor man. He's forever picking lint off his socks, his sweaters, and his flannel shirts. Fran Allison, what do you say?
Well, why not get the automatic washer with the built-in lint filter, the new RCA Whirlpool, and have no more lint problem. Just look at the new RCA Whirlpool's built-in lint filter. It's not an ordinary stuck-on lint filter. It's built in, right in the rim. So you can easily reach it for cleaning, but it never gets in your way. Now, as you know, ordinary lint filters don't work on partial loads. But the RCA Whirlpool's lint filter works on full loads and on partial loads, too. It's twice as useful as ordinary part-time lint filters, and it's so effective. Look how the lint and fuzz cling to the filter instead of the clothes. Then you just whisk it under the faucet. The lint rinses right off. Yes, with its built-in lint filter, the new RCA Whirlpool gives you truly lint-free washing. And remember, only the new RCA Whirlpool also gives you 2-speed washing with a second slower speed for delicate fabrics, plus the famous suds miser that saves soap and hot water, as well as the wonderful built-in lint filter. So see your RCA Whirlpool dealer now for the new RCA Whirlpool automatic washer and matching dryer, now in colors and all porcelain white.
RCA Whirlpool.
We'll return to Producer Showcase after our stations take 30 seconds to identify themselves.
This was the war to end all wars. See The Great War Tuesday.
And now, back to Producer Showcase and Act Two of William Wyler's production of The Letter.
Yes.
Mr. Crosby to see you, sir.
Now ask him to come in on.
Will you come in, sir? Thank you.
Oh, Bob, sit down, won't you?
If I can be of any assistance, I shall be within call.
Not at the moment, Arn. Arn's been a lot of help on the case. He finds out everything. He's the perfect confidential client. The only trouble is that once he's learned my business, he's set up a business in opposition.
Well, how's everything going?
Everything's fine, Bob. As a matter of fact, she's much better than you are. Funny thing, you've taken it so much harder. Leslie hasn't turned a hair.
She's worth 10 of me. I don't mind telling you I'm just about all in. Tried to work, you know, but it's just no good. Stake can go to blazes for all I care. I hate the house and every tree on it.
Bob, why don't you stay with us for the night? We'll see you get a good night's rest.
Well, thanks. I think I will if you can put up with me. Haven't closed my eyes for the last 3 nights.
You better get some sleep and get out of these clothes before Leslie sees you. We don't want her to have to cheer you up.
Yeah, got some pluck in you. Why do they have to keep her in that filthy prison all this time?
Bob, they had no choice. Anyway, it'll all be over tomorrow.
Then the whole thing's a farce, isn't it? Why do they have to put her through the ordeal of a trial?
Bob, she admitted killing a man. In a civilized community, a trial is inevitable.
She shot him like you'd shoot a mad dog.
You don't have to convince me, Bob. Now, will you stop worrying about the trial? That's your lawyer's job.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know you're busy. I'm very grateful to you.
So long, Bob.
Bye.
Bring your things over as soon as you can.
Yes, I will. Thanks.
Come in.
If you are not too busy, sir, might I trouble you for a few words in private conversation?
No trouble at all, Arn.
The matter upon which I desire to speak with you, sir, is very delicate and confidential.
Well, what matter is it, Arn?
It has to do with the case of the Crown versus Crosby.
Yes.
A circumstance, sir, has been brought to my knowledge, which seems to me to put different complexion on this
Will
case.
you please come to the point, Arn? What circumstance do you refer to?
A friend has brought me information, sir, that there is in existence a letter from the defendant to the unfortunate victim of tragedy.
Well, that's not surprising, Arn. I've no doubt Mrs. Crosby often had occasion to write to Mr. Hammond.
But the letter, sir, was written on the day of the late Mr. Hammond's death.
Well?
You will recall, no doubt, sir, that Mrs. Crosby has stated that until the fatal night, she had had no communication with the deceased for several weeks.
Yes.
In my opinion, sir, this letter indicates that her statement was perhaps not in every respect accurate.
Have you seen this letter, Ong?
I have with me a copy, sir. The original is in possession of a woman. She happens to be the Chinese woman Mr. Hammond had a relationship with.
And what makes you think this letter was written by Mrs. Crosby?
I have every confidence in the veracity of my informant, sir.
That's more than I have, Ong. It's inconceivable that Mrs. Crosby should have written such a letter.
Might I suggest, sir, that it would be well to make sure, since my friend is of the opinion that this letter might be of interest to the public prosecutor?
I'll give the matter my consideration, Ong.
Very good, sir. Do you wish me to make communication to my friend?
You might keep in touch with him.
Thank you, sir.
Crosby. Good morning, Mr. Joyce.
Miss Parker.
Hello, Hart. I wasn't expecting you so early.
How are you today?
Well, this is a wonderful place for rest. Robert sends me roses every day. And Mrs. Parker looks after me like a mother.
Well, I've been company for you. When you're not used to it, it's lonely like in a place like this. It's a shame they ever put her here, if you want to know what I think about it. Oh, I shall
Mrs. Parker, I dare say you won't mind leaving us alone. Mrs. Crosby and I have some business to discuss.
Very good, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Parker. Sometimes she nearly drives me mad. She's so chatty, poor dear. How you've been so kind to Robert and me. I know you're busy and you come every day. I don't know how I shall ever be able to show my gratitude.
You haven't been acquitted yet, you know.
Oh, I feel perfectly safe in your hands. Won't you sit down?
Thank you.
Of course, I'm not exactly looking forward to the trial.
You know, Leslie, one thing that has impressed me has been that every time you've told your story, you've told it in exactly the same way. You've never varied a hair's breadth.
What does that suggest to your legal mind?
Well, it suggests that either you have an extraordinary memory or that you're telling the plain, unvarnished truth.
I'm afraid I have a very poor memory.
I suppose I'm right in thinking that you had no communication with Hammond for several months before that night.
Oh, yes. The last time we met was at the tennis party at the McFarrens. I don't think we spoke more than 2 words to each other. They have 2 courts, you know, and we didn't happen to be playing in the same set.
And you hadn't written to him?
Oh, no. There's nothing I should write to him about except to ask him to dine or play tennis. And I hadn't done either for months.
At one time, you'd been on fairly friendly terms with Hammond, hadn't you? How did it suddenly happen that you stopped asking him to things?
Oh, one gets tired of people. We never had very much in common.
You're quite certain that's all?
Well, I had heard about that Chinese woman.
You never mentioned that.
It wasn't a very pleasant thing for me to talk to you about. I knew you were bound to find out for yourself sooner or later. Under the circumstances, it wouldn't be very nice of me to tell you about his private life.
What was she like?
Horrible. Painted and powdered, covered with chains and bangles and pins. Oh, not even young.
And it was after you found out about her that you stopped having anything to do with Hammond?
Yes.
Leslie, I think I should tell you that there is in existence a letter in your handwriting to Jeff Hammond.
Oh? Of course. When he came here first, I used to send him little notes asking him to dine or play tennis or get me something in Singapore when I heard he was going into town.
This letter asks him to come and see you because Robert was going to be away.
Oh, but that's ridiculous. I never did anything of the kind.
Perhaps you'd better read it for yourself.
That's not my handwriting.
I know. It's said to be an exact copy of one written on the day of Hammond's death.
What does it mean?
That's for you to say, Leslie.
I didn't write it. I swear to you I didn't write it.
If the original is in your handwriting, it would be useless to deny it.
It would be a forgery.
That would be difficult to prove. It would be easy to prove it was genuine.
It's not dated. I might have written it months ago. If you give me time, I'll try to think. I'll try to remember.
Leslie, the prosecution could cross-examine your houseboys. They'd soon find out if someone took a letter to Hammond on the day of his death.
I swear to you that I did not write that letter.
Then we needn't go into the matter further. If the person who has the letter sees fit to place it in the hands of the prosecution, you'll be prepared. If you've nothing further to say to me, I'll get back to my office.
Wait. I did write that letter.
Then why didn't you mention it?
I was afraid to. I thought none of you would believe my story if I admitted having invited him to come to my house. I suppose it was very stupid of me, but I thought that once I had said that I had no communication with Hammond, I was obliged to stick to it.
And you'll be called upon to explain why you asked Hammond to come and see you while Robert was away.
It was a birthday present I was buying for Jeff. I wanted to buy him a gun. I'm awfully stupid about sporting things. I wanted to talk to Jeff Hammond about it. I wanted him to order me one.
Perhaps you've forgotten what's in the letter. Do you care to read it again?
No, I don't want to.
Robert will be away for the night. I absolutely must see you. I'm desperate, and if you don't come, I won't answer for the consequences. Don't drive up, Leslie. Leslie, I'm going to have to speak very plainly to you. I told Bob just now I was certain of your acquittal. I didn't tell him that just to cheer him up. I don't believe the jury would have left the box. This letter places an entirely different complexion on the whole case. It'll put the prosecution on the track of suspicions that have entered nobody's mind. I won't tell you what I personally thought when I read the letter. It's the duty of counsel to defend his client, not to convict her even in his own mind. I don't want you to tell me anything but what is needed to save your neck.
Stupid, I'm into faint. I'm afraid I made rather a mess of things.
I'm sorry.
For Robert, not for me. You've mistrusted me from the beginning. Who's got the letter?
Chinese woman.
Are you going to let them hang me?
You think it's so easy to get rid of a piece of unwelcome evidence?
Surely nothing would have been said to you about the letter if they weren't quite prepared to sell it.
That's true. But I'm not prepared to buy it.
But it wouldn't be your money, Robert.
I wasn't thinking about the money. I don't know whether you can understand this, Leslie, but I've always looked upon myself as an honest man. What you're asking me to do is no better than suborning a witness.
Do you mean to say that you can save me and you won't? How can you be so cruel?
Cruel? You must be insane, Leslie. A lawyer has a duty to his profession as well as to himself. No, I can't do what you ask.
He's never hurt anyone in his whole life. He's so kind, so good, so simple. He trusts me. He really trusts me. I mean everything to him. Everything in his whole world. And this will ruin his life. I know what you're thinking. You despise me. You think that Robert is well rid of me if they do hang me.
I don't despise you. It isn't important what I feel about you, don't you understand?
Oh, Howard. Howard, you will save me. You will. Please.
Do what I can for you. Bob will want to know what the money's for.
Will it be a very large sum?
I imagine the woman who has the letter has a pretty shrewd idea of its value.
You won't have to show the letter to Robert, will you?
I'll do everything in my power to keep it from him. He'll be an important witness. He should be just as convinced of your innocence as he is now.
And after the trial,
try to save your life.
What if Robert loses his faith in me? He loses everything.
Strange. A man can live with a woman for years and not know the first thing about her. Mrs. Parker, I'm just going.
Gracious! How white you look, Mrs. Crosby. Mr. Joyce hasn't been upsetting you, has he?
No.
You look like a ghost.
He's been kindness itself. I suppose the strain is just beginning to tell a little. Goodbye. I don't know how I shall ever be able to thank you.
Mr. Joyce will be busy today and tomorrow. He won't be able to see anyone until after the trial. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello, any calls?
Mr. Reed of Reed and Pollock brought this deposition, sir. He'd like to have an appointment next Monday afternoon at 3.
That's all right, Ong. Thank you very much.
Is there anything further you wish me to say to my friend?
Your friend?
About the letter, sir.
Oh, yes, Ong. I spoke to Mrs. Crosby about it. She denies having written anything of the sort. It's obviously a forgery.
In that case, there would be no objection if my friend delivered the letter to the public prosecutor?
No. No, none at all. Come in.
Excuse me, Mr. Joyce.
Yes, Ong.
But from my study of the case, sir, I believe that if we could induce my friend to deliver the letter into our hands, it would save a great deal of trouble.
And in what circumstances do you think your friend could be induced to part with the letter, Ong?
My friend does not have the letter, sir. The Chinese woman has it. She did not know its value until my friend told her.
And what value did your friend put on the letter?
$2,000, sir.
$10,000. And why not 50? Why not 100?
For the reason, sir, that Mr. Crosby has in the bank of the British Malay Company in Singapore a savings account in the amount of $10,652, sir.
Tell your friend to go to the devil.
But, Mr. Joyce, the woman does not want to sell the letter, sir. My friend took a long time to persuade her.
$10,000 is a lot of money, Ong. Just to save some trouble.
Yes, sir. It is a great deal of money.
I'll speak to Mr. Crosby.
Mr. Crosby is waiting for you at the club, sir.
He is?
We have only a short time, and the matter, in my opinion, permits no delay. I therefore took the liberty of asking Mr. Crosby to have lunch with you, sir.
Very well, Ong. Have the woman come to my office.
I was about to mention, sir.
Yes, Ong.
She has made 2 conditions. She insists that the money be brought to her. I can take you whenever you are ready.
And the other condition?
That Mrs. Crosby bring it to her personally.
You must be out of your mind, Ong. Do you think Mrs. Crosby can just walk out whenever she feels like it?
My friend thinks that you could arrange for her to stay at your house tonight, sir. I am sure the judge will permit it if you are responsible for her.
Ong Chi Sing.
Yes, sir.
What are you getting out of this?
$2,000, sir. And the satisfaction of being of service to you and our client.
Will you? Bob. You look a little more cheerful.
I feel better since this morning. I guess you finally convinced me we've got nothing to worry about.
Well, as a matter of fact, Bob, something has come up.
Huh?
It's nothing very much. It's just something I wanted to talk to you about.
Well, what is it?
Well, my Chinese clerk has uncovered a piece of evidence which could be rather damaging to our case if it got into the hands of the prosecution.
Well, what sort of evidence?
It's a letter.
A letter? From whom? What about it? What sort of letter?
It's a letter from your wife.
Yeah?
Look, Bob, I don't want you to ask me about it now. You're going to be giving evidence tomorrow. I don't want the slightest question to exist in the back of your mind.
But I don't know what sort of question you're talking about.
Well, I'd like to leave it that way at least till after the trial. All I want you to do now is to authorize me to buy the letter.
Buy it?
Yes.
Well,
look, Bob, juries can sometimes be very stupid. It's just as well not to confuse them with more evidence than they can conveniently deal with.
Look, Howard, I don't pretend to know what it's all about. You just go ahead and do what you think is right, eh? All right? I'll pay you back.
Good. Now put the matter out of your mind. Jerry, 2 more gin slings, please. And make mine a double, will you?
Darling, I've invited absolutely everyone. The Wilsons, you remember them, don't you? The Claibornes, they've just come back from home. So, of course, I've had to bring them up to date about everything that's been happening, and they're just dying to see you. And then a Colonel Hugh... Oh, Howard, I suppose you want Bob and me to get started.
I think it'd be a good idea, darling. Run along and see the film.
Imagine Howard trying to talk me out of giving the party.
Now, don't let that big bully exhaust you. Good night, darling.
Don't hurry back. We have lots to talk about.
We will. All right. Bye.
Good night.
Where do we have to go?
The Chinese Quarter. Hong Chi's saying will take us. He'll be here soon.
I've always wanted to visit the Chinese Quarter. I hear it's a bit creepy. Of course, I'd have chosen other circumstances for a visit.
Be flippant about your own crimes, Leslie, if you like, but don't be flippant about mine.
I'm sorry, Howard. I didn't mean to be flippant. Really, I didn't.
Put it out of your mind. I'm sorry. How did you happen to take up that lace work?
Oh, I wanted something to do. I find it soothes me.
You mean it takes your mind off other things?
Is that a legal question?
You're not an ordinary client, Leslie.
You've been watching me all evening. I've noticed it.
I'm responsible to the court for you.
It isn't that. You've been, what? Trying to read my thoughts.
Trying to understand you.
Why? Because I'm so evil? That's it, isn't it?
That must be Ong. We'd better be leaving.
Money.
Selamat malam.
Hi.
This is Chang-hee, sir.
Does he speak English?
Me speaking very good English. How you do, sir?
Good evening.
You please to sit down?
No, we'll only stay a few minutes. I suppose you know what we've come for, Chung-hee. Have you got the letter?
Oh, women have got.
Where is she?
Oh, she come.
Why isn't she here?
Oh, she here all right. She wait till you come. See? Kasiyata adarang pute Missy Senny. Lady, please to have a chair. Me, general dealer. Maybe you like to see Swata silk, no?
No.
Oh, you like to see jade? Me sell you string #1 quality. Very nice present for your missy.
I only want to see what we came for, Jimmy. The air's rather bad in here. Would you mind opening a window, please?
Buka.
The lady speaks only Malay and Chinese, sir.
Ask her if she has the letter.
Ne Yao Feng Sung Ma. Yes, sir.
Well, where is it? What is she waiting for?
Anna Chungli.
I regret, Mrs. Crosby, but the lady requests that you take off your veil. The lady insists that you walk over to her.
Now look here, Ong.
Producer Showcase will return with Act 3 of William Wyler's production of The Letter in just a moment.
Don't compromise on quality. When you want TV you can carry, insist on RCA Victor, the portable with big set performance. Sharp, clear pictures. Choose RCA Victor for lightness, too. Small enough to carry anywhere. The Sportster, only $129.95. For just a few dollars more, the Wayfarer, with a built-in antenna. And your choice of decorator's colors, red, gray, or ivory. Don't compromise on quality. When you want big screen TV, insist on RCA Victor. For RCA Victor gives you RCA's own Silverama picture tube. Every big inch sharp and bright for big family enjoyment. Easy to tune standing up. The simple, foolproof tuning dial is right up on top. No knobs on front. All you see is TV's finest picture. The Dixon, only $219.95. Don't compromise on quality when you want TV that swivels. Insist on RCA Victor. For RCA Victor gives you fine furniture plus TV's best picture and sound that turn together to face you wherever you sit. The Enfield, only $299.95. The finest television deserves the finest care. RCA Factory Service. Don't compromise on quality. See your RCA Victor dealer. An accident is about to happen. Watch. A $35 portable radio practically ruined. Let's see what happens when you drop a new RCA Victor, even from way up there. RCA Victor's non-breakable impact case doesn't have a scratch, chip, or dent. It's guaranteed for five full years by RCA Victor. No chipping, no cracking, no breaking. Why buy a portable with a breakable case? For the same money, you can get one of these new RCA Victors in the non-breakable impact case with a 5-year written guarantee. Look what else you get. RCA Victor's new wave finder antenna. Twist. You're on your station, loud and clear. See RCA Victor's new portables in the non-breakable impact case, as low as $29.95 at your RCA Victor dealers.
And now, Producer Showcase presents the third act of William Wyler's production of The Letter.
Everybody's waiting for you, dear. Hurry. I'm afraid I took a very long time.
Darling, it was worth waiting for.
Here she is, everybody! Come on, dear. I want you to be happy.
Oh, it's so good. There's somebody who particularly wants to say hello to you.
How do you do, Mrs. Crosby? I don't suppose you remember me.
Of course I do, Mr. Withers.
Let me get you a cocktail.
Let me help. Well, I guess you want to forget all about it. But, you know, I still can't forget the way you gave your evidence.
It's very nice of you to say so, Mr.
Well,
Withers.
everything was so exact. Right down to the last detail. Nothing sentimental or cheap. Had lots of people crying.
Thank you.
I made a solemn vow that I wouldn't mix another cocktail until Leslie was acquitted. So if these aren't up to my usual standard, just remember it's because I'm out of practice. You excuse me a moment.
Well, here's to your very good health, Mrs. Crosby.
Darling, you feeling neglected?
No, just resting.
I don't mind confessing that you made a rather good speech, Howard.
Thank you for that.
Don't you think
word.
so, Bob? Though I think you might have been a little more impassioned without hurting yourself.
I don't know. I think it was the fact that he was so cold and businesslike and impersonal that absolutely hypnotized the jury. You know? Here's to the jury, the good old jury.
Yes, you've been thinking that toast for quite some time now.
Well, there were 12 of them. I'm only up to number 8. I've still got 4 to go. Excuse me, darling. Number 9.
Leslie, dear, what do you think about Howard's performance? After all, he's your lawyer.
Oh, I shall never be able to repay his kindness.
There, darling. That should be praise enough.
I shall never forget the shout that went up when the jury came in and said, not guilty.
Neither shall I.
Mrs. Crosby, may I have the pleasure of the first dance?
Mrs. Joyce, would you like to dance?
Thank you, I'd love to.
Well, I must be on my way. I always do manage to be the last guest to leave, don't I?
I think that's quite proper for a bachelor.
Good night, Mrs. Crosby.
Good night, Mr. Withers.
It was a great pleasure having you to myself for a dance. Good night, sir.
Good night, Withers. Nice to see you again.
Good night, Mr. Joyce.
Good night, Withers. Good night.
Oh! If you forgive me, I'm going straight upstairs to bed.
Of course, darling.
Wonderful party.
Thank you for a wonderful
Well, you're
party.
very welcome. I don't mind telling you I'm feeling quite exhausted. So good night.
Good night.
Good night,
Good
darling.
night.
Well, I think I shall follow Dorothy's example. and
Just
go.
a minute, darling. There's something I particularly want to talk to you about. Something I want Howard to hear, too. Come on, Howard. I want your legal opinion.
What's up?
Nothing's up. I just want to get Leslie away from here as soon as possible. That's all.
A bit of a holiday would do you both good.
Could we, Robert? If only for a week or two. I would be grateful.
What's the use for a week or two? We're going to get away for good.
But how could we?
You can't just throw up your job.
Now, sit down, Howard, please. Sit down. Now, look. We just can't go on living here after what's happened. You've been absolutely wonderful, darling, but there's a limit to what even you can take. And what about me? Every time I go away again, I'll think of you sitting in that bungalow all alone. I'll never have a moment's peace. And socially, it wouldn't work either. I mean, even though she's been acquitted, there'd still be a lot of talk and gossip, and I don't think she'd enjoy that.
No, I don't.
No, the whole thing's impossible.
Robert, you're right. I don't want to stay here.
I know our only chance of peace is to get away someplace we can forget.
Could you get another job?
I don't want another job. I'm going in on my own. I found an estate in Sumatra. Darling, we can get away from here. Start a new life with new friends, and I'll be working for myself instead of for a company in London.
Robert, would be wonderful, really wonderful.
That settles it, then. I'll go right ahead with the deal. Now, darling, you run along. I want to talk to Howard about the contract, eh?
Bob, are you sure you're not acting hastily? I mean, have you gone into this thing thoroughly enough?
Yes, I have, very thoroughly. It's an excellent buy. The owner's in financial difficulties, and he's got to sell. He's willing to let it go for $30,000 if he can have the money right away. The place is worth $50,000 if it's worth $1.
How on earth are you going to raise $30,000?
Well, I've saved about 10. That ought to be enough for the down payment. I can raise the rest on mortgage.
Isn't it a little rash to put all your eggs in one basket?
Huh?
Robert, darling, I don't think I want you to take this risk on my account. I shall be all right here. Really, darling, I shall.
Nonsense, darling. You just said you wanted to go.
Well, perhaps it wouldn't be right to run away. People have been very kind.
Huh?
Anyway, it's not the sort of thing you want to rush into. Let's wait and see.
Why should I wait? It's a good thing, and I don't want to lose it. Oh, darling, you'll love the place. Wait till you see the photographs.
I don't want to see the photographs. I'm sorry, Robert.
That's just nerves. That just shows how important it is for you to get away. I've made up my mind about this, Howard. Can you see me in the office tomorrow morning?
Bob, I don't want to throw cold water on your plans, but aren't you forgetting certain financial obligations? I mean, hasn't it occurred to you that your expenses of what we've been through will be pretty heavy?
Oh, you mean your legal expenses? Well, I know you lawyers are robbers,
I'm not going to charge you anything for my services, Bob. We'll put that down to friendship. There are certain out-of-pocket expenses.
Well, that's very decent of you, Howard. I don't know. I don't know. I could accept it, you know. But what do the other expenses amount to?
The principal item is that letter of Leslie's I mentioned.
Oh, yeah, the letter. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'd forgotten
Do
about
we
that.
have to go into all that now? Can't that wait for some other time?
Not if Bob is set on buying this estate.
Well, I certainly am.
I had to pay a great deal of money for that letter, Bob.
You did? Oh, well, if you thought it was so necessary, I'm not going to grouse. How much was it?
$10,000.
You're joking. $10,000? Why, you must have been mad.
You may be sure I wouldn't have given that if I could have got it for less.
But that's every cent I got in the world. Why didn't you let them bring the letter in and explain it to the jury?
I didn't dare, Bob.
What was in the letter? What was in the letter?
You better tell him.
It was a letter to Hammond.
Yeah?
Asking him to come to your place.
When?
The night he was killed.
That's not possible. She said over and over again that... Why did you ask him to come to our place?
I wanted him to help me buy you a birthday present.
A birthday present? Why Hammond, of all people?
Yes, I wanted to buy you a gun. He knew all about that sort of thing.
You knew I was buying a gun from Cameron.
How should
Why
I know
should you
were
want to give
buying
me
a gun?
Because I told you.
I forgot. I can't remember everything.
You hadn't forgotten that.
What do you mean, Robert? Why are you speaking to me like that?
Buying that letter was a criminal offense, wasn't it?
It's not the sort of thing a respectable lawyer does in the ordinary way of practice.
It was a criminal offense.
Yes, it was. I could be disbarred for it.
Then why did you do it? You of all people. What were you trying to save me from?
Bob, I've already told you.
No, you haven't. There's a lot I haven't been told. Who has the letter now? Have you got it?
Yes.
Where is it?
It's not your letter or mine, Bob.
I gotta pay $10,000 for that letter, and I'm gonna see it.
Let him see it.
What does it mean? No, wait. What does it mean?
It means that Jeff Hammond was my lover. He'd been my lover for almost a year. We used to meet constantly. Once or twice a week at least. Every time I met him, I hated myself. And yet every day, I longed for the moment I would see him again. It was horrible, Robert. It was like as if I were a person who was sick of some loathsome disease and doesn't want to get well. Then, a few months ago, it changed for me. At first, I didn't know what was the matter. Then I heard about that Chinese woman. But I couldn't give him up. I sent for him. You've read the letter. I told him I knew about her. At first he denied it. But I made a scene. I begged him to give her up. Begged him and begged him. Begged him to love me. I even threw myself at his feet. And he turned to me. And he told me he was tired of me. Sick and tired of me. That the only woman who ever meant anything to him in the whole world was that other woman. He went to go. And he told me that I would never see him again. I got your gun. And I fired. I fired and fired and fired. There's no excuse for me.
I'm sorry.
He's going to forgive you.
Yes. He's going to forgive me. Where will you go?
Tell Howard I'll be in touch with him.
Robert? It's no use, is it? I can't ask you to forgive me. Can I? Can I? If I had a chance to try again, if you could forget what has happened, Robert, if only you could.
If you love someone, I suppose you can do anything.
Oh, Robert.
What about you? Can you go on?
I'll try. I'll really try.
That's not what I'm asking.
I'll do everything in the whole world to make you happy.
It's not enough. Tell me, now, at this moment, do you love me?
Yes, I do. I do love you, Robert. No! No, I can't. I can't. I still love him. Oh, the man I killed.
We'll return with the names of tonight's cast and an important announcement about the next Producer Showcase presentation in just a moment.
New sensations in sound by RCA Victor.
New high-fidelity Victrola phonographs by RCA Victor. Custom style, ready to plug in and play. The RCA Victor Mark 6 4-speed phonograph. Rich, clear sound.
New sensations in sound by RCA Victor.
Magnificent console design. The RCA Victor Mark 4. 3-speaker panoramic sound. And here's an RCA Victor exclusive. Both these phonographs let you plug in to enjoy stereophonic sound. High fidelity by RCA Victor, as low as $79.95.
New sensations in sound by RCA Victor.
In just 30 seconds, I'm going to show you how to save real money on some of the most outstanding RCA Victor albums ever recorded. Save money on dazzling pop albums like Paris, The Sounds, The Sights with the Malacrino Orchestra, Calypso, a West Indian collection by Harry Belafonte. Save money on fabulous Red Seal albums like Scheherazade with Morton Gould and his orchestra, Offenbach in America with Arthur Fiedler and the Boston Pops. And here's the big news. Repeated by popular demand, it's the RCA Victor Save on Records coupon book. Yours for just $3.98 at your record dealers. It entitles you to any three $3.98 RCA Victor albums free. There's no obligation. It saves you $24 on future record purchases. And you purchase only the albums you want in your choice of long play or 45 extended play. Act now. The Save on Records coupon book is sold only at your RCA Victor dealers.
Now, for a word about TV service, let's look in on some of our friends in the far north.
Anywhere you go, people know that the world's finest television is RCA Victor television. But even in an igloo, things can go wrong. But an RCA Victor television owner would call the nearest branch of RCA Service Company for a factory-trained RCA service technician. And he services only RCA Victor television sets.
For the telephone number of the RCA Service Company branch nearest you, consult your classified directory.
Siobhan McKenna is currently starring in St. Joan at the Phoenix Theater in New York. Rebel, a 20th Century Fox CinemaScope production. This has been a production of Showcase Productions, Incorporated. On November 12, Producer Showcase next presents the television treat you've all been waiting for, an original musical based on Jack and the Beanstalk, with book and lyrics by Helen Deutsch and music by Jerry Livingston, and an all-star cast, including Celeste Holm as Mad Meggie, Cyril Richard, Peggy King, Arnold Stang, Billy Gilbert, and Joel Gray. Producer Showcase is brought to you every fourth Monday by the makers of RCA Whirlpool Home Appliances and by RCA, world leader in electronics, and RCA Victor. The Letter has been brought to you in compatible color television, pioneered and developed by RCA. This is Mel Brandt bidding you good night.
This was to have been the war to end all wars. See the Project 20...